Yellow. Yellow is misunderstood. It seems too happy to make sense and is never anybody's favorite color. Yellow girl is all smiles and no laughs. She is summertime ending. Any moment she can turn into sundown and sadness and summertime blues, but she's not blue, she's yellow. She's warm and hearty and hardly ever mad. She has paper-cut apologies written on her arms. She is sorry for all her cold-shouldered glares. Indirectly, she scares all of her peers, but one-on-one, she is daisies and dandelions and candlelit conversations. She tries to bring awareness for topics that can never meet the dinner table. She is honest, unorthodox. Her main message is unconditional love, but her tongue is caught by tragedy. Her feet held down by gravity. She tries to push back poverty, tries to push back tears, tries to push back years of barely rational thinking and mentally ill parental figure, skewing traditional views, incongruent truths, fallacies and life lessons taught through backhanded abuse. Neglect left her fending for friendship so that she'd have something to feel whole. She's vibrant in the daytime, but when nighttime comes, she is helplessly hopeless and lost in the darkness, loses focus. Sometimes she forgets where she is and she loses her ambitions and falls still to the ticking of cuckoo clocks and rhythms of dogs barking melodically over unseen disruptions. She's disrupted by every notion that leads her to believe that she is anything but perfect. She drinks water in an attempt to wash away her discomforts, but she'd have to chug the ocean in order to feel closer to home. She wants to be cleansed, but she doesn't know how to swim. She winds herself up on loose goals and causing other people's laughter. She is the sun that gives the moon its vibrance. She makes life shine. People do not look at the sun. Oftentimes they forget that it is there, its glare too vicious for the human eye. But she does not give up her task, for she knows that without her flames, the world is dark around her. Yellow is misunderstood. It seems too happy to make sense and is never anybody's favorite color. Thank you.
Last echoes of the Founder's Oath faded into the high school auditorium's arched ceiling. On the stage, Principal Newman introduced the governor. A classmate took advantage of the pause and leaned over, asking, "Anybody dashing if they say it's open? How about you, Maggie?" I shook my head and whispered, "Sorry, I gotta go get my engineering project and take it home after this." Striding to the podium, the governor adjusted his glasses and cleared his throat before leaning into the microphone. Mariner High School students, as you know, autumn is here. We have entered aphelion, and the wind is expected to remain calm for at least 2 weeks. Canyon dashing will be permitted for ages 14 and older only. Used authorized airlocks only. You will see green lights at their entrances. Dash in pairs or groups. No single dashings are permitted. Dashing more than once a day is discouraged. I cannot stress enough the risks involved in dashing. Without a pressure suit, any mishap can result in your death. Goosebumps danced across my skin. The governor drew a deep breath into his pencil-thin chest and boomed, "Remember, dashing is not just an act of endurance, it is an homage to our founders. It is the seed of our new lives. When you walk on the Martian surface, you experience this planet's greeting to a new life form, you. Dashing is a privilege, an honor, and a rite of passage that tests our physical and mental limits. It is not a requirement. No one is forced to dash, and it is certainly not a lark." Murmurs flew through the auditorium, and I craned my neck to search the freshman row for Sarah's corkscrew curls. She returned my gaze with a wicked grin. The best thing about having a 14-year-old sibling is never being without a dash partner. "May I have your attention?" The governor frowned until we were quiet. "Also, as you know, new citizens have been arriving from all over the planet this week. Over 40 new families have joined Mariner City. Our new students will start school on Monday. Please make them feel welcome. All schools, housing corridors, and tunnels on levels 1 through 5, including this school, are now under Code Yellow Contamination Protocol. You, your families, and neighbors will be quarantined with the immigrants for the next 6 months. If your parents or guardians are level 6 workers or above, please see Principal Newman for temporary housing arrangements. Not me. Mom took a level 1 sanitation job for the year, what with Sarah turning 14 and all. Dad works in the greenhouses. He stayed until Sarah's first canyon dash, but now he's stuck in level 8 until quarantine's over. And the rest of you have a good weekend. Continue in safety, thrive in helpfulness. Small groups splintered off from the main body of students, and Sarah waved at me before heading to art club with her friends. I headed toward the tunnel leading to the science department. A soft, unexpected male voice behind my shoulder said, "Excuse me, do you know where the circuitry class is?" When my heart started beating again, I looked up into the most gorgeous gray eyes. "Focus, answer him." I nodded and said, "It's just a couple chambers over this way. I'm on my way there now if you want to come with me." "Thanks." He fell in step beside me and I lengthened my stride. My head barely reached up to his shoulder. "Hi, Mrs. Jason," I greeted my teacher as we walked into the classroom. "This is," I paused, feeling a blush climb all the way up to my ears. "Skylar," he supplied with an easy smile. "Nice to meet you. The syllabus said I should get a circuit board to practice on from you?" "Sure," Mrs. Jason said. She got up, opened the cabinet, and asked him, "Do you need a magnifying viewer?" "That would be great, thanks." Mrs. Jason pulled out a bag for Skylar's supplies while I walked to the back table and picked up my stepper motor project. I smiled at the A tape to it. "Congratulations," Skylar said, looking over my shoulder. I was ready to tell him to make more noise when he walks, but I could fall into those gray irises with their tiny green and amber flecks. "You kids got everything you need? I'll see you Monday then," Mrs. Jason said. "Thanks, bye." As we walked toward the housing levels, Skylar nodded at my stepper motor and asked, "Are you going to use it?" I glanced down at my project. Not for a while, I guess. My 3D printer's working fine. I made the same part for extra credit last semester and it's still sitting on a shelf. "Can I have it?" He shrugged at my surprised look. "I mean, if you're not going to use it, and after you've shown it around, of course, I got a D on mine last year. I guess I'm like the rest of my family, not too mechanically inclined. And now our printer's not working and none of us have been able to fix it. I'm pretty sure the problem's in the stepper motor, though. I could trade you something for it." He took a deep breath. "Sure," I said, slowly handing it over. "I don't need to show it to anyone. It sucks to be without a printer. And if this doesn't fix it, I can take a look at it after school sometime." "Really? Wow, thanks. It's really nice of you to offer." We stopped for a moment while he placed the motor in his bag. "So what does a senior do for fun around here?" he asked. "Oh, I'm just a junior." And queen of conversation killers, I withered inside. He smiled again. Gracious dimples. "Okay," he said, "what do juniors do for fun? And is it different from what seniors do?" I chuckled. "Well, I guess right now we'll all be dashing. Have you done it before?" No, I've heard of it, but it's kind of, well, frowned on where I come from. Gruesome death in 20 seconds and all that, you know." "Oh, it's only unconsciousness in 20 seconds. A safety team would get you inside in less than a minute. You'd be hurting, but you wouldn't die." He shook his head and exhaled in a short laugh. "Yeah, with your eyeballs sucked out of their sockets." "Oh, please, it's just a myth. Your tears would boil, that's all. We wear goggles, earplugs, and nose clamps, so no boiling body fluids. We run across the canyon without a suit to the opposite wall's airlock while holding our breath. It only takes 14 seconds at a slow jog." Still doesn't sound like fun. I searched for a way to explain its lure. "Look, when you're out there, you're really totally outside, like bare to the air, and you can see the sky straight above your head. And if you look into the open end of the canyon, you can see all the way down to the crater." I realized I was waving my arms as I talked, so I lowered them to my sides. "Is it really supposed to make you able to survive the surface?" "Well, the idea is to build tolerance and breed a Martian race. I left that part out. We carry an emergency pack, and we have to prove we can get the thin suit on and inflate it in 7 seconds before we're even allowed to dash, so I guess it's a good practice in case of an emergency." "That would be one messed up emergency." "Yeah, for sure, but that's what the city's about, preparation and survival. Save the ember of humanity from any disaster." I laughed. "Yeah, get used to reciting that one. And the one about staying clean, right? I mean, I think people here must sanitize themselves more in 1 week than the rest of the world does in a year. After requesting to move here, we had to wait in quarantine for 3 months, and now we're in quarantine again, and you along with us." You should see what imported seeds and plant clones have to go through. They're grown in total isolation for at least 10 years, and the people working with the new plants have to stay in isolation right along with them. Yeah, some things seem, well, overly strict here, I guess. Like everyone having to learn everything about repairing machinery and keeping the greenhouses going. I mean, I'm all for knowledge, but to have your entire population trained that way sounds awfully ambitious. 100 years ago, a small group of people who knew all about maintenance and greenhouses saved our colonies when we lost contact with Earth, I reminded him. He nodded, and his sandy blonde hair floated between his ears and shoulders. We came to a fork and started walking towards separate tunnels. Well, I stopped and said, my home is this way. I guess I'll see you Monday. See you Monday, he smiled. Hey, thanks you so much for the stepper motor. I smiled back. You're welcome. I hope it fixes your problem. See you. Walking home, my pace grew slower as my thoughts deepened. I'd always known Mariner City was different from the rest of Mars, and that we were different too, but I'd never thought much about it. The founders had envisioned a population prepared to colonize Mars and survive any disaster. They'd standardized sanitation procedures, developed written, verbal, and tactile learning systems for everything from mechanics to computer coding, but their most ambitious goal was to evolve characteristics that would allow complex life, including humans, to survive on the planet's surface. Most of Mariner City's population had lived here their whole lives. We devoted ourselves to the founders' principles, learning everything, mating with the purpose of producing the hardiest offspring. I'd never considered leaving, but what if I fell in love with someone who didn't want to stay here? Would leaving be equivalent to betrayal? If I left, would my parents ever understand? I can stop there if you want. I can keep going.
Is there more? Because
There's 2 more pages. So.
oh, yeah, it's great.
Mom always let us stay up late on Friday nights and watch the Thriller channel. Tonight, disaster in the form of mutant slime mold spreading through the greenhouses played out on our living room screen. Humanity's only hope was to pilot the last 150-year-old interplanetary ships back to Earth and pray for the best. The thorium reactors were ready to go. Sarah and I silently mouthed the formula for the ship's trajectories as the heroes recited it on air. Blast off. Would there be an ending, a real ending, like either landing or crashing or floating off into deep space forever? I looked at the clock. 5 minutes left. Nope, the leading man and lady would kiss and that would be it. Lame. Lamer still. I was right. Mom turned off the TV and I got up and stretched. Sarah stayed on the couch with a thoughtful look. Do you think we'll ever get back to Earth? She asked softly. We'll know when we know, sweetie, said Mom. Do we still have the ships? Yes, once the freighters bound for Earth disappeared, the first governor grounded the fleet. The ships are still well maintained. Earth's silence and the impenetrable electromagnetic barrier surrounding it and its moon had been a mystery for the last century. In Earth years, only about 50 Martian years had passed. I'd be 8 years old in Martian years. No wonder we stuck to Earth's calendar. I yawned and asked, do you think we'll ever really adapt? Oh, that's a tall order, honey, but the farther we can push ourselves, the better, I think. Mom, do you think canyon dashing's crazy? No, maybe. We'll see. When the founders started the program to see if humans could adapt to Mars, it made sense to encourage a love of the planet's surface. It's something everyone in the city has in common, and some people can now spend 30 seconds outside with no ill effects. That's only 10 seconds longer than the record set 80 years ago, but it's still a 50% gain in only 44 generations. It's got to be significant. We hugged goodnight, and Sarah and I went to our room. Rolling in her bed, Sarah said, Maggie? I said, pulling my covers up, imagining tomorrow's grit and cold on my skin. Will you dash with me tomorrow? After a dash, once I've entered the receiving airlock, I like to pull my nose clamp off really fast. Then I'll take a deep sniff and see if I can smell the outside atmosphere. I like to think I can. Dustier, drier than normal. Yeah, I closed my eyes and smiled. I'll dash with you. The end.
Oh, that's good.
This is more rock oriented.
What's it called?
I don't know. Howl at the Moon?
Oh, I love it. Go for it.